Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champion. When I first started playing Digimon Survivors, I did not expect to be able to get to it for a month or so. I figured surely Soul Hackers 2 would occupy me for a while, and I wouldn't be able to play this weird niche Digimon game. Never liked Digimon games before. They always have this weird level up, level down system that I can't stand. It's awful. Turned out not to be the case. The more I played Soul Hackers 2, the more I wanted to go play Digimon. Partly because Soul Hackers 2 isn't very good, but also this is just a really good game. It's a strategy RPG, which is something we don't get very often. When we do, it's always like a remake or a remaster from days gone. I mean, I think they're remaking Final Fantasy Tactics again. They're remaking Tactics Ogre again. Getting new games in this genre, it's not a thing. But here it is. It's in that visual novel style that some games do. It's very anime-esque. They do some of the storytelling on the actual in-game like grid-based engine, which always works better. Anytime those scenes were playing, I felt more invested than I did when it was just the faces on screen talking back and forth in the cardboard cutout. And while they do have a good amount of variation between the facial expressions, you can kind of see what's going on, and it's fun to watch. It just didn't really hit me as well as when you saw Miyu huddled up on the ground and cowering. Like, being able to see that stuff just adds a lot to it. But that's fine. Overall, the story is a lot of fun. It really does play out like an old Digimon series. The normal 3 endings can get really dark, like Five Nights at Freddy's Kids Dying Dark, but the true ending feels like you're watching just a season of the show. Like, it gets a little spooky, you're like, what's gonna happen? But then everything works out in the end. The sound design in the game is pretty good. I mean, there's voice acting. It's all in Japanese, so it really is pointless for most of us. In a visual novel, if you have voice acting, you want it to be in either your native language or a language you understand so that you can put it on auto scroll and then you can do something else, right? Play a mobile game, read a book. Just lay on the couch and put the controller down and take a break instead of having to press X constantly. It's funny because when you're doing the voice acting part where it's Japanese, it's really slow and it takes forever for them to get through the dialogue, so you find yourself skipping it. But if you put it on auto, the non-voice acted text that gets intermingled with it is like this. It's so fast you can't possibly keep up with it. So it's weird, but if they had an English voice casting, I think it'd have been much better. Because again, you can just sit it and forget it, watch it like an anime, and then, oops, it's battle time, let's do this. But they didn't. The audio part of the game is okay. None of the songs are super memorable except for one of them, and that's because it's literally the Great Fairy Fountain theme from Ocarina of Time. It's fine. There's sound effects where there should be sound effects, unlike some other games that I've reviewed recently. It's good. You're not gonna write your mom and be like, you should listen to this game soundtrack. But you're gonna enjoy it playing in the background while you mash through dialogue. Outside of the story, the game really shines in its combat. As I said before, it's this old school STRPG style like Final Fantasy Tactics or Front Mission or stuff like that. Digimon have one ability between them. You can equip accessories that can either boost their stats, give them immunities to things like sleep and poison, or give them entirely new abilities. Abilities, of course, have different ranges and areas of effect and that sort of thing. Almost all of them are ranged. There are several Digimon that have like physical attack specialty, but there's no physical attacks. Even they do not have a physical attack outside of their normal attack. So it's a really bizarre choice, but also at the same time, in Digimon, they don't really do a lot of physical attacks. I mean, Agumon doesn't exactly claw people a lot. He does Papa Breath. Each Digimon also has a passive that can do anything from increased fire damage to restoring SP when you use a healing ability or get hit by a healing ability. So there's a lot of variation there and a lot of incentive to experiment with different Digimon. However, team comp generally doesn't matter. Every Digimon kind of operates inside their own bubble. Agumon's good all the time, whether or not you have somebody else on the team. The way evolution works in the game is much closer to the show than it is in other games. Each of your characters that you see in the story has their own partner Digimon, and they evolve mid-combat. For instance, Takuma's Agumon will start as Agumon every single fight and then be able to evolve into whatever you want him to. Meanwhile, the ones you tame out in the wild stay in whatever form you have them in. So if they're a rookie, they'll be rookie all the time. If you get the Somes to evolve them into their champion form, when you take them into fight, they'll be in the champion form. They never devolve or evolve outside of you specifically using the items on them. This, again, is very true to the show, as in, I don't remember any Digimon ever evolving or devolving in the middle of a fight in the show and then going back unless it was a partner Digimon. So that's kind of cool. In fact, that's my biggest praise about this game compared to other Digimon games, is it is just it's a season of the show. Each ending is unique and different and has different outcomes, and different people survive and don't survive, etc. And then the true ending makes everybody happy and stuff, probably. But at the end of the day, when you're finished with any of the story paths, you're going to feel like you just watched the show. And that's kind of awesome, because again, I've never experienced that from the games. There are always these weird, long, self-contained stories that Digimon are almost just shoved into. I mean, you could have just made a Battle Network game and changed Mega Man to Agumon, and that would have been a Digimon game. Like, it's weird how they always did it, and I really appreciate this change in direction. Of course, it's from new developers, so it's going to be different. But I really appreciate it. That said, the endings in the story of this game can get pretty dark and gritty, almost to the point where sometimes I feel like there should be a trigger warning, because there are some very adult themes that happen to these middle schoolers. There's a Five Nights at Freddy's comparison to be made in terms of children not exactly always making it to the ending credits. At the end of the day, I had a phenomenal time with Digimon Survive. It scratched an itch for a good Digimon game. It scratched an itch for a good STRPG. It was a good story. All in all, it's just a really good game. As far as Digimon games, it might be my favorite one to ever come out. It definitely passes on the scales. As far as my new numerical score that I'm going to try out now, I'm going to give it an 87. It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. You'll really love the characters. I didn't even get into a lot of the character stuff because anything I talk about is going to be spoilers. But I highly recommend the game if you are a fan of RPGs or storytelling, visual novels, Digimon in general. It's just great. It's a fun time. Pick it up. And of course, thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel some, be sure to hit the like and the bell buttons, because that'll help us get into the algorithm and maybe get seen. I have a lot of things to say. My next review is going to be on Soul Hackers 2. Hopefully you've already seen my Xenoblade 3. And hey, leave a comment below of your favorite Digimon. For me, it's Vmon, which unfortunately we don't get to see in Survive until the very end.